Yo, what's up? I'm Dipsy. With me, as always, is Tinky Winky, and we are here to do another episode of It's Lit Book Reviews, the podcast where we discuss all things books. And we're gonna talk about a few different things here. We haven't talked about several of the books we've read really over the last I don't know 2 months. I don't know, July and August. We've been reading all kinds of different stuff, doing different things. So we've been talking about comic books here recently. We've recently gotten into that. Um, but now we're going to get into some of the proper literature, if you will, that we've read as of late. So, yeah, man, what's your book reading been looking like here lately?
The last book review we did was King of Ashes, which we don't not recommend, and we also don't recommend. I'm surprised I didn't get more views, not just because anyone should watch anything we say, but I mean, that book is seemingly popular, but that and then The Shadow Rising. So the only thing I've read recently that I've finished was at the very beginning of this month. So almost 20 days ago was when I finished the last book that I've finished. So then there was that nice little siesta with comics, but I've been reading The Fires of Heaven, book 5 or 6. Is it 5?
Yeah, 5.
5 of the Wheel of Time. Since last week, maybe? I don't know. Maybe it's been maybe 5 days. I don't even think it was the beginning of last week. I think it was towards the end. So I'm like 300 pages in. I think I'm on chapter 17. So it's been fun. But I need to get back, so I'm glad the Wheel of Time's getting me back in.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. So far, I'm almost like 200 pages in. But anyway, yeah, I have been kind of grinding lately on the real literature as well. So yeah, I mean, right before The Shadow Rising, I finished The British Are Coming, The War for America, Lexington to Princeton, 1775 to 1777 by Rick Atkinson. So this is the first in his Revolutionary War trilogy. And you finished this one as well. So I mean, it's got good ratings, like 8,000 so far on Goodreads. It came out in 2019. This book's older than I thought. Got a 4.44.
Actually, I've not finished this one, by the way.
Oh, I thought you had. My bad.
No, dude.
Wow, that's my fault.
No.
And we just talked about it before
this
we
one
started,
or
so that's my
Iron
fault.
Kingdom. Unfortunately, I will be finishing these. I got lost, dude. I got lost, and that's what can you say?
Yeah. So I mean, what this is similar to Atkinson's World War II trilogy, where it is strictly, I mean, it is a military history. There's definitely like diplomatic, political history as well in there, but it's pretty detailed. I thought it was good. I gave it 4 stars. It's like 4.0, 3.75-ish land for me. Like, I still think it's a really good book and does what it sets out to do, but it was a little dry for me. I'm not going to lie. I mean, and I usually like military histories just because it's fascinating. But I don't know, man. I might have reached my limit on Revolutionary War history for like, maybe a year or so at least. I might have just bogged down in a bit too much of it over the last year, but it's still a really good book. How are you liking it so far? I know that's probably not encouraging to hear.
No, I mean, I'm like over halfway. I mean, because I think it's almost 600 pages, and I think I'm like 400 in. So I'm not like, I didn't get stuck at a bad point. I think
it's almost 800.
A lot of stuff came up with work. And so I liked it. I think I was liking it more than you were when I stopped. So I didn't stop it because I wasn't liking it. You read so much faster than me. So I think I was trying to keep up maybe with one of the Wheel of Time books. And so I was like, all right, I'll come back to it. And then because I think I started it maybe before you, or I can't remember. I know we started for 4th of July. We were going to try and read it right before that. And it was just such a mistake on my part to even think I could finish that before the next one. But no, I've actually liked it, but I haven't read a lot of Revolutionary War stuff. So I was learning a lot from what I remember about things that I just didn't know, even though it's very specific stuff. But I mean, the main thing that I remember learning was like, wait, the city of Boston is basically an island. And I did not know that. Like downtown Boston is fully surrounded by water. And I was like, that just for some reason blew my mind. I feel like I should have known that about Boston, and I didn't. But anyway,
but no, I've liked it.
Yeah, So I mean, it's one of those that I'll definitely end up finishing because I don't. Do you have the second one? I know the third one hasn't come out yet.
No, it came out like last year, I think, 2024, like end of the year. Maybe it was this year. No, it was this year, wasn't it? Yeah, it wasn't long
25,
ago
20,
actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can't remember. I know it. Yeah, I think it was somewhat recent.
Yeah, either way, book 2 is out, but no, I haven't gotten it yet. I'm doing my darndest to not buy. I mean, I shouldn't even say that.
Is
I'm
that the
buying
worst one
shit
you've
all the
read so
time.
far of the ones that you've? I want to say worse because it's I'm sure you respect Rick, but like as far
Dude,
as the
I
ones
mean,
you enjoyed,
I
like
haven't
of the ones you've recently read.
oh, of all the ones I've recently read, no, I wouldn't say it's no, I wouldn't say it's the worst one. No, it's definitely not actually. Yeah. So, it's somewhere in the middle
Okay.
of the pack as far as the books I've read the last couple months. So, as far as those other books I've read, I read I'm a Stranger Here Myself, Notes on Returning to America After 20 Years Away. This is written by Bill Bryson. He's the writer of A Short History of Nearly Everything. He's got a lot of really popular books, really well received books. And this one isn't as popular, but for some reason I had this book. I don't know where I got it, but I was, it's short and I saw it and I was like, I'm going to read that real quick. Bill's a guy, so I'm going to check that out. And it was fine. I give it 3 stars out of 5. Maybe like a 3.25, 3.5 ish on the old Fable. It was fine, but it wasn't really like fully what it says it is. Like some of it's just him writing stuff that doesn't really have to do with readjusting to his home culture after being away for 20 years. At the beginning of
Yeah.
the book, it's definitely like that. Like he's making these just, pointing out the differences and things that he noticed, and it makes sense the way he's presenting it. But by the middle of the book, I'm like, bro, you're just kind of talking about your life. And some of it's interesting, but some of it's really not. So it's fine. I wouldn't really recommend that. But on to the next one. I read Plato and the Tyrant. This is a newer book. The Fall of
You were hyped
Greece's
for this one.
Greatest. Yeah, I was really hyped. It's a newer book. So Plato and the Tyrant, The Fall of Greece's Greatest Dynasty, and the Making of a Philosophic Masterpiece, which is referring to the Republic by Plato. I also gave this book 3 stars. It's fairly new, written by James Rom. There were some really good moments, but this book kind of, I feel like this is a problem for a lot of books. I shouldn't say a lot, but several books I've read, I feel like this year, and it's similar to what I just said about the Bill Bryson book, but it just kind of goes off on these tangents. And maybe I'm changing because I feel like I used to like that, or maybe it just depends on the context. But I want the book to be about what the book said is supposed to be about. You know,
Yeah.
like I don't want all this other stuff so you can prove to me that you know how to research something or whatever. I don't need that. I just want you to give me what you're supposed to give me. But this is kind of a shorter book, so it kind of felt like he didn't have that much to say, so he filled it
Yeah.
with a lot of information that was, yes, you could make an argument on paper related to the subject material, but it had no real consequence to it in a lot of ways. And so I'd be reading for 20 pages. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with Plato or the Tyrant. Like it's a very like either niche or specific detail of the world or the culture, which you could have explained in a paragraph.
Yeah.
So it's still, I shouldn't say it like it's a bad book. I still give it 3 stars. It's not bad. It's good and I enjoyed it, but I was ready to be done with it when I finished. Next I finished was The Things They Carried, which I guess is not technically nonfiction, but not fully fiction either. You've also
Yeah.
read this one, Tim O'Brien's really popular book, part memoir, part historical novel on Vietnam.
Yeah. It's the
What'd you
last book
think?
I finished. I actually really liked it. Funny
Yeah.
enough, this was, recommended, or I don't know if recommended is the right word. Tyler, one of our boys, snuck into a book club, and
Mm-hmm.
this was the book that was chosen for a group of guys who are trying to get into reading. And if that's who you are, I would not recommend this book. But I liked it, but
Mm.
it was very metaphorical. Not
Yeah.
the easiest read if you're trying to get back into something. It felt like a bunch of short stories, honestly. That
Yeah.
there was maybe there was maybe a little line between all of them, but some of them would kind of go back and forth in the timeline. But it just felt like a bunch of short stories about, the tragedies of war, obviously, especially with Vietnam. But I
Yeah.
actually enjoyed it more than I think I thought I was going to enjoy it. But it was short, so I mean, I felt like I sat down for 3 separate times and invested time and was able to rip through it. I could see where if you let this book like lag on, it could probably, because I finished probably the last two, because what, maybe 260 pages, 270
Yeah.
maybe. I
Yeah.
think I read the last 200 in a sitting when it was like slow at work. So I think that helped the rating. Whereas if you just break this book up, I don't
Right.
know if it hit as well, you know?
Yeah, it may not hit the same. Yeah, I would definitely agree with all that. I really enjoyed it too. What did I? Yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I think on
I
Fable
think
I
I
gave
did
it a
same.
4.5 or 4.25 maybe. Um, it was really good though. It kind of was. It reminded me, and I think you actually said this when you were reading it. It kind of reminded me of. Oh no, you couldn't have said this. Maybe you did. I think you said it reminded you a bit of Kurt Vonnegut Jr.'s writing, but it specifically
Oh,
reminded me of Slaughterhouse-Five a bit. Obviously, it's way different, but the kinda and Tim O'Brien even talks about it in the book, but the way he kinda weaves fact and fiction and blatantly tells you that he's doing that could sometimes I was reading it and I was like, "Dude, I don't like this." But then other times, I'd get done with the chapter and I would think, "Well, that was really good." And I like that he leaves it. Because I feel like he's trying to say something with doing that, that like a story's not important because it's true or not. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I feel
That's
like
the
in some
message.
moments in the book, he kind of nailed that. But yeah, I mean, the tragedy of Vietnam and what they went through and just war in general, definitely felt like an anti-war book. I think it's labeled that, which, most anti-war books I've read are really good. And I did enjoy this one as well. So, yeah, the things they carried by Tim O'Brien do some really sad parts, man. I mean, I
There's
don't
some
wanna, like, say
tragic
anything
part.
specific, but dude, just truly deep cuts that were tough to
This
read.
is
Man,
not a feel
Vietnam's
good
one of the
book.
real bad ones.
Yeah, this is
No.
not one where it's like, oh, I'm just looking for something interesting that, be kind of cool and quirky. Like, that's not what this book is. It's definitely more of like a book you'd study in college or high school. So, like,
Mhm.
it's more like if I want to read something with meaning. And I think that's where, when it was chosen for this group, for Tyler and gang, that none of them liked it. None of the
Yeah.
guys getting in,
That's
they all
yeah.
read it and finished it, which props to them for doing that, because it's definitely not an easier book if you're trying to get into it that way. But yeah, I mean, I think, did Jake say if he had read this? I feel like this is a book Jake would like.
Yeah, I think Jake would like it. I think I told him that he would probably like it because
Yeah.
of whatever he was reading, is it what's it called? A war story or something by Steinbeck? He was reading a Steinbeck book, and it sounded kinda like
Yeah.
this.
It feels like a very well written book too. I mean, not
Mhm.
that we need that, honestly, when it comes to certain things, but yeah, this was definitely, at least for me, out of my vein of what I'm normally going to read. Like, normally I would not
Yeah.
read something like this at all. So I wasn't
Yeah.
mad that I did, and I feel like I found things that I appreciated about it. If this was all I got to read, though, I would not read very often. So,
Yeah, I
you
don't
know
know
what I
if I'd
mean?
tell people that don't read a lot to pick this one up
No.
first. 'Cause I think it's really good, but I do think there are other things that would be better in that
Especially if
situation.
you're trying to learn about Vietnam. I mean, you don't really learn much. You just learn things that you could probably guess,
Yeah.
which is how tragic war is, and watching people die
Yeah.
beside you, and then how that
When it's
messes
very
with you
personal, intimate.
psychologically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Which could be great. Maybe some people would enjoy it their first read, but it didn't sound like it worked out for the boys, so,
No.
you know,
No.
we'll see what happens next. We'll keep you posted on the book club that we're not in. Or I guess you're in it.
Kind of. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to read this next one. We'll see.
What are they doing next?
That Mickey 7 book. Supposed to read
Oh.
it by the 5th of next month.
I mean, I heard the movie was terrible, but I'm sure the book's really good.
It doesn't have good reviews on Goodreads, which, I mean,
Oh,
you never know what that means, but it's got like a 3. It's like mid 3s, I think. So it's like one of those very questionable ratings. We'll see. It depends if I'm busy or not for it. But I just, shout out to the guys getting together to try and read. Get more guys need to do that. That's what I
mhm.
was more happy about. I didn't really care because neither of these books were books I would want to read. But I mean, me
We
and
need
you,
to
the
see
only
more of
reason we
that.
started this is because we don't have anyone else that reads. Like, I know Jake, and I mean I do too, but Jake reads. But other than that, I mean, It's thin numbers out here. So whenever the boys think about reading, you got to encourage that at any cost.
You do indeed. You do. We need more of that in the community. So the things they carried, Tim O'Brien definitely recommended here if you're looking for what the things they carried is. Again, it's good, but maybe not for everybody. So next up for me, a few more that I've read here recently. I read The Devil's Chessboard, Alan Dulles, The CIA and the Rise of America's Secret Government by David Talbot. I give it 4 stars. It's got a 4.35 overall on Goodreads. I gave it a low 4. I think I gave it 3.75.
That's a big book, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like 700 pages somewhere on there. I've known about this book for a while, and I've read a lot of stuff about the CIA and Kennedy, and I know about Alan Dulles, but not in detail. But this time that kind of, I don't know, it worked out differently to where the things that I knew about, like MK Ultra, but didn't know in detail, I don't know if it was just this writing or just the topic in general. Once I got into it, I realized, I actually don't care to know all the details. Like, I know that the CIA did some really bad stuff with MK Ultra to people. And now I have more of the details, but I just, it was a well-written book, and there was some good information. It's a little annoying, and this is coming from someone who really enjoys reading about JFK. I understand, obviously, one of the big points he's making here is he thinks that Alan Dulles was complicit in the assassination of JFK, which a lot of people think the CIA was involved. Me, myself, I think that's highly probable. But either way, there were many chapters that were just about JFK. And again, dude, I don't know who else needs to hear this if you're writing a book. Write the book about what you say the book is about.
They're clickbaiting, you know what I mean? Dude. They're getting you.
It's so annoying, dude. Well, it's not even. It's like they want the book to be longer, bro. To me, that's all it is. Because at a certain point, if you are even remotely intelligent, there's no way you can tell me you truly believe that 3 chapters taking up 85 pages out of this book, specifically about JFK, are necessary to the book that you're making about the CIA. You can break down the Bay of Pigs and how it's connected to the CIA and what JFK's thoughts were about it in less time than that. It's just annoying, man. Like, just say what you're here to say. If I wanted a JFK biography, that's what I would be reading right now.
Well, especially when you read certain authors, like Paris 1919 comes to mind, where that book could be so much longer if another author got their hands on like those certain topics.
Yes.
So that ability to write about something that is like a big, broad topic that you could write another 800-page book on, but instead of going 25 pages on this side thing, give me a page, maybe 2.
Yes.
Give me that overview.
Yeah, because I think, I don't know.
That is a skill.
It is, dude. That's a really good reference.
Then it's tough to like when you read something else and it's like, especially because you already know about JFK, so you're reading stuff that's like, all right.
Yeah.
This context I don't.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing that really, and maybe, I don't know, I'm thinking about this more, and this might be a 3-star book rather than a 4. I think it is a 3-star, because again, there's good stuff in it. But the other thing that was a little too much for me, even though again, I do subscribe to some of the conspiracies, I wouldn't say 100% one way or the other, but I do think there's more going on. There's more than meets the eye, if you will, with the JFK assassination. But revolving around that and even some of the other subject matter, it was just a little too conspiratorial in nature. And I understand it has to be that way when you're talking about something that's not the accepted historical fact, but it just felt like if he had toned it down a bit and not made it so obvious that his bias and his emotions were on the page, he could have made a more compelling argument. But for me, even if I am inclined to agree with something, if I feel your personal inclination in the words, it's harder for me to like take you seriously and continue, because especially if it's something I already think, I'm like, dude, I don't need, you pouring your personal passions into this. Like, just spit out the facts. So all that to say, this is still a good book. If you don't know anything about the CIA, especially in the 60s, I mean, really much before that, but also the 60s, kind of the culmination point of the CIA's rise, if you will. I definitely think it's a good book. You just need to be aware you need to take things with a little grain of salt, because the conspiracy, this guy clearly hates Alan Dulles and the CIA and thinks that they were pretty much the most responsible party for JFK's assassination. At least it seems to a degree, but either way, so I'd recommend it if you want some of that information, but just, you got to know what you're getting into. Next up, I read Hoover, An Extraordinary Life in Extraordinary Times, about Herbert Hoover, written by Kenneth White. It's got a 4.3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and I also gave it 4 stars. I don't think it's a very popular book. Let me actually open this one up. Yeah, it's only got 1,450 ratings on Goodreads, and it came out in 2017, so it might have missed its moment. I don't know. We'll see. But really good book. The only reason this one, I think I gave it 4.5 on Fable, so like really high 4. Only reason it didn't reach those higher heights is it's just a little dry and a little longer than it needed to be in some points, but not like, it wasn't incredulous, if that's the right word.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right usage of that word that way, but either way, I didn't know much about Hoover at all, except from the World War I book I read earlier this year. I knew he did a lot of humanitarian aid during the war under Wilson's administration. One of the few good things that came from that administration. But it was a really interesting book. I mean, Herbert Hoover starts out his parents die when he's young. Like not at the same time, but he's young when he's lost both of them. And so he goes from like essentially, an uncle's house and then a grandma's house, a friend's house. His life's kind of crazy. He's really quiet his whole life, like doesn't really connect with people very well. He will, but it's hard for him. So, there's nothing as a young kid that indicates to people this guy's going to be like an amazing force in this world. But then as he gets older, he goes to college, gets a geology degree, starts investing and running these mining companies, goes to Australia for a couple years with his company, doing all these mining expeditions, trying to make a bunch of money. Then he goes to China to do mining. And dude, this is way before he's president. He goes to China and he's there during the Boxer Rebellion. I was just like, oh my gosh, this dude's seen so much and already has like a cool life at this time. Then he starts kind of getting involved in government stuff, does humanitarian aid during World War One. I can't remember what the number is, but it's like millions upon millions of lives estimated that he saved during World War One by either relocating people or getting food and water to people. And then obviously, he serves some more time in government, does different things. There's some obviously lows and a couple minor scandals throughout his life. But then he becomes president. So just a fascinating character.
Scandal.
You got to have at least one minor scandal. And that's not what it sounds like. It's a scandal that is small, is what that means. It's not like a huge deal necessarily.
Okay. Yeah.
Just to clarify.
It's not age related.
Right. Which is actually ironic if you read the book that I said that, but I mean, it's not. I don't want to insinuate that he did.
Man,
I'm just getting too deep.
Dragging Hoover.
Take the shovel out of my hands. But anyway, Hoover's a really good book. He's a really interesting person. He was in between Calvin Coolidge and FDR, so like he's, right around the Great Depression, right before the 12-year, almost 12-year, whatever it was, stint of FDR and into World War One or World War II, obviously.
He's
so just a really good
guy, right?
Yeah, just a one-term guy. He came in at a really interesting time, and this author makes the argument that he doesn't get enough credit for starting to pick the country out of the Great Depression. It's one of those things that I'd certainly like to believe that, but I believe what this author says, but who knows what really happened. But this author makes the point that Hoover did a lot to start picking us up out of that. And FDR got a lot more of the credit for it. He was very against the New Deal. A lot of people then and a lot of people now would agree that, the consequences of the New Deal were not worth it. So, there's just a lot of really interesting stuff in his life that he was a part of, even though he only served as a one-term president and wasn't super successful as president. So yeah, Herbert Hoover, interesting guy. It was a good book. Last one, Fredrick the Great by Nancy Mitford. This is probably, dude, I think this is the best one out of this whole list for me, actually. So
Fred, dude.
Fredrick the Great, yeah. For those that don't know, Fredrick the Great of Prussia, yeah. Nancy Mitford. So her books came out like in the 40s and stuff, like way back when. She's been long gone. So this book's like pretty old.
Yeah.
I think it came out it was not long after World War II, which is really interesting because for those of you that don't know, Fredrick the Great is someone who Hitler and the Nazis like greatly admired. And so because of that,
which is not a slight on them, but unfortunately it is now.
Yeah, so like post World War II, because of that, the narrative became that Fredrick the Great was a bad person because Hitler admired him. But when you look at the life of Fredrick the Great, and Nancy Mitford makes the argument that no, this guy was actually, especially for the time he was in, it's actually a pretty chill dude. Like he was, did some crazy stuff or great stuff, whatever it may be. And I think the thing he's most well known for is holding his own against 3 different nations. The 7 Years' War and all this different stuff that happened. Yeah, which is pretty fascinating to read about. And he is a really just very interesting character to read about. He was
he's
really
the whole
close
reason
with
Germany
Voltaire.
becomes Germany. Like that whole dynasty, Germany doesn't exist at this point. It's Prussia, and then due to his actions, Germany rises.
It becomes Germany. So obviously very important figure in history. And the reason this book was so good, it could have been great even with another author because Fredrick's life is so interesting, but Nancy Mitford is kind of like a almost whimsical writer and has her own kind of style that just made it really enjoyable and really engaging to read. I'd like to read more of her stuff. Apparently this is her best biography. Nancy. I was like, dang it. So it's only downhill from here, but still very good book. It's only got a 3.81 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, but you guys should never trust that. Find out for yourselves if it's a 3.81. Yeah, I gave it a 4.25 or 5 on Fable. So it's not a perfect book. Not the best thing I've read all year, but over the last 2 months, dude, that's other than The Wheel of Time. It's the best book I've read.
All right, I like that. How do you say that Dynasty House? So the Iron Kingdom, the only reason I even know anything about Fredrick the Great and all the Fredricks before and after him that also just happened to have the same exact name from that dynasty is because of Iron Kingdom, which is another book I'm currently reading. I've been reading it for about 4 months now, and it is good as well. It's just, guys, you gotta understand, it is almost impossible to keep up with Jesse, so I have to do what I have to do. This book will get finished for me, though, The Iron Kingdom, by the end of this year, and it's been good, but every time I was reading, I would see this word, and I'm just curious as to.
Are you talking about Hollenhausen or whatever the heck that word is?
What is? Wait, say one more time.
You talking about like Hollenhausen or whatever? Dude, it's when I read it, it's Hollenhausen, and I'm done.
Exactly. Yeah, and I feel like that's what's made him not as present today. Is that's such a tough word for Americans to say. So I want to believe
that's so true,
because I feel like he needs to get more. I don't know. It was man, I feel like he actually did a lot. I think it's him and Charles XII. Maybe he's the guy from Sweden who, I only know about him because of the Rest History podcast. I'm why is this guy not talked about more too? And anyway, Fredrick the Great seems like one of those guys that needs more credit.
Yeah, I think so. Especially again
Hohenzollern, or however you would say that.
Yeah, I feel like most of the time I'm just going Hohenzollern. I'm just pushing everything together as much as I can. But yeah, really good book. That's been pretty much the last 2 months of physical books we've been reading. As you may know, if you've seen other stuff we've done lately, like I said at the top, we're reading a bunch of comics too. That's why. And just to be clear, I'm not some elite reader. I just have an exponentially greater amount of free time than Andrew does because he has more responsibilities than I do, and I sit at home most of the time when I'm not working. So,
dude,
I wish I had less time to read.
I don't know. Some days you may think that, and some days just playing. Well, you never know. But I'm excited, dude. So far, what's your feeling for the Fires of Heaven? Book 5 and
dude, it's great, man. I'm at the point now where he would have to do so bad on a book for me to be out and for me to not be so into it, because at this point I'm so into dude, there's so many characters, but obviously you're not going to be into all the characters or know that much, but there's still, there's 13 characters that I'm just dude, what's going to happen with them? And I'm 200 pages into this book and I haven't even seen some of them yet, at all. And dude, he knows what he's doing, man. He's oh, you really like that guy because at the end of that book, something crazy happened and made you like him even more. You're not going to see him for 2 books. It's all right, cool.
I'm gonna
I'll
be
see you
honest.
in
I don't
2
think we're
books.
seeing who you're talking about this book.
I'm pretty sure
I
we're
can't
not.
remember. I
It
think
feels like we're
maybe
not,
we do, and if
which
it's
means
like a
there's 2
something like
people. Means there's 2
yeah,
people that I really want to see again that I'm not gonna see for a while.
yeah. It's just now
But
like his
I'm
writing's
enjoying
so
it.
specific, and I feel like now I'm kind of getting into the. It's crazy to say that this far in, but I have like a rhythm for his style of like
Yeah.
how he's going to write characters and how you're just kind of each POV you're
Yeah.
so like everything's so biased with how that character is seeing the world. And that kind of takes some getting
Yeah.
used to sometimes because it's like
Mhm.
I don't know, you're just so used to the narrator being like reliable and it's not like they're lying, it's just how they see the world but then you get another POV and something's different. But yeah, the Wheel of Time
Yeah.
has been fun. So
Yeah, it's really elite. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And yeah, we'll see what happens next. Hopefully Tom's down pretty soon for a another episode.
oh, shout out Tom. We'll need to get him on for
Shout out
Invincible as
Tom.
well. So, but the
Yeah,
comics have
yeah.
been
If you're
fun. But we'll
yeah.
we'll get back,
Yeah, if you're
guys. I know if you're into the comics, we'll do more. But if you're not, we are
mhm.
still going to be reading. So it's the best of both
Yes.
worlds over here. No reason to get out. Stay in.
Or get in, just stay out.
Yeah, just what the Mormons do. They like soak or whatever. Just stay in.
Yeah.
Just stay in.
Water's warm. But I think that's it. Yeah, last 2 months have been good. We've got a lot of stuff we have read and a lot of stuff to read. So the grind continues,
Yeah,
everybody. Wake up early, drink water, and read books.
exactly. Bye, guys.
Bye.